What's up, friends? This is On the Horn. I'm Zach Joachim, featuring my dog Harvey and my girlfriend Maggie.
Go Rams!
Coming at you from downtown Richmond on this Wednesday night after VCU won at Rhode Island 84-75. Really good, much needed bounce back performance for VCU, right? After you lost 2 in a row last week. The vibes were a little lackluster. And they needed a get-right game, and that's exactly what they got. They led wire to wire for 38-39. Rhode Island was never ahead in this game. Things got nervy for one moment there, and I'll start there in the second half. Rhode Island ties things up at 51 apiece. VCU led 40-30 at halftime, right? They were really in control most of the way, and then Rhode Island came out strong in the second half. And we'll get to that sequence here on my notes, because contributions across the board for VCU tonight. Terrence Hill, game high 19 points. He continues his breakout sophomore season. Tracey, 17 points. And I think that was huge for VCU because he is the vocal leader and communicator for this team. Phil Martelli has called him the connector for this group. He's the most experienced college basketball player, right? Has won NCAA tournament games at Oregon, and he struggled against St. Louis and George Mason. And I think he dove on the floor after a couple loose balls tonight. I think he just set the tone in terms of the desperation that VCU needed. But Rhode Island ties things up at 51 after a 9-1 run. Capped by a Tyler Cochran 3 with 13:41 to play. Phil Martelli calls timeout, right? And then VCU got it together. Huge bucket. Tracey got into the lane, backed his man down, up fake in the air, finished off glass plus the foul, hits the free throw for 54-51. That restores VCU's lead. Starts a big run that I think ended up at 20-5, and Rhode Island never really got back within striking distance. Tyrell Ward. I picked the right week to ask the Tyrell Ward question in the press conference because I wrote about it earlier this week. Had a lot of people asking me about him. He hadn't played since the win over Ryder on December 22nd. And this team needs him, and he contributed tonight. Ended up with 6 points, had a bucket when he first checked in during the first half, and then a huge catch-and-shoot 3 in the left corner off a Michael Belle assist for 57-51 with 12:40 to play. Couple possessions later, Nowell 3 off the dribble at the top of the key. Nowell was really good again tonight. He ended up with 14 points. His playing time has increased over these last few weeks. He responded really well to not getting off the bench there for a couple of weeks. I remember he didn't play in that Bonaventure game, and everyone had questions about where's Nowell for this team. His contributions have been huge over the last couple of weeks, and he was big again tonight. So that 3 made it 60-54, and then another 3 from Nowell on the left wing. He's got such a high arcing shot. When his threes fall, they look really pretty. Used an up fake to lose his man. That made it 63-54. That's a 12-3 VCU run. And then Ward got to the line for 64-56. Jadrian Tracey rebound off of Barry Evans' then missed the putback and got his own rebound. So a couple offensive boards there. He headed to the line for 2 free throws, hit 1, 65-56. And then Tracey catch and shoot 3 on the left wing. That made it 68-56 off a Michael Belle assist. That was VCU's largest lead of the game. Nowell drive and finish at rim for 70-56. That was a 16-5 VCU run. That put him up by 14 at the 6:45 mark. And it was really over the rest of the way. And Rhodey never got back within striking distance. Here's some stats here. VCU ended up 49.1% from the field. That's 27-55. 41.4% from 3. That's 12 of 29. Assisted 16 of their 27 field goals. All of the offensive struggles that we saw against St. Louis, they were able to correct tonight. And a lot of the defensive struggles that we saw against Mason, they corrected as well. I mean, Rhode Island ended up with 75 points, but I think they hit some tough threes tonight. I don't think they were really on any consistent level, the defensive lapses that we saw from VCU, specifically at Mason, with them getting the easy 2s. Lazar Djokovic was out tonight with an illness, and I think that prompted a lot of trepidation before the game, right? He's obviously been one of VCU's best players this year. Him and Hill have really been the 2 guys carrying this team. But Keyshawn Mitchell stepped up, ended up with 4 assists, all of them in the first half. He was a big part of getting into the paint and hitting teammates on back cuts to generate easy buckets. And Michael Belle as well. What were his finishing stats? I'm trying to find it right now. He ended up with 10 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. VCU 49-31 edge and bench points, and his versatility was enormous tonight, right? Because Phil Martelli used a lot of smaller lineups with Michael Belle at the 5. and sometimes you had 4 guards out there, especially late in the game when Rhode Island started to foul. And that versatility from Mike is enormous from a coaching perspective, especially when you've got to, mix and match a little bit when you've got Lazar Djokovic out. And so he enabled Phil Martelli to get creative with the lineups a little bit, which really helped VCU overcome Djokovic's absence tonight. And here's a quote from Mike in the post-game interview with Robbie and Rodney. "All the outside voices, we hear them, but they're not in the gym with us every day." He said, talking about VCU's bounce-back performance, "We know what we're capable of. I'm happy with how calm we remained." And it looked like they did remain calm in the face of adversity after their first consecutive losses of the season. Here's Phil's quote talking about VCU's flowing on the offensive end. "We were more connected. We were more in gaps. We were there to help each other. I'm really proud. We got something from everybody. Everybody impacted winning. They were really locked in together. That's what it has to be." I believe that's actually Phil talking about the effort on the defensive end there. And here's his quote on the offensive side of the ball, because VCU took care of the ball really well, which was a huge factor tonight, right? Because it's a Rhode Island team that really excels at turning opponents over. Tyler Cochran was 3rd in the country in steals with 57 on the season coming into this game. VCU won the turnover margin 13-5. To only turn the ball over 5 times at Rhode Island is a huge accomplishment. That led to a 16-5 edge in points off turnovers. Here's what Phil said: "With this team, the way that they guard," talking about Rhode Island, "the key was getting the ball side to side. We have to be that high assist team. That's when our offense is clicking. We're still not there. This is a step in the right direction. We have to continue to do that." And it most certainly was a step in the right direction for VCU tonight. Rams to 12-6, 3-2 A10. And again, I wrote about it this week. They, in terms of at-large hopes, have hit now or never time. That's, the realistic. They're not on the bubble right now. They're not really in the bubble conversation. But this Rhode Island game started a string of 6 very winnable games for them. And with how good this team can be on paper, they should win all 6 of those games. And I think they're favored by at least 68% on KenPom to win each of their next 10. With the 2 tough games, I want to say Dayton and George Washington come to the Siegel Center in the back half of that 10-game stretch. And if VCU can reel off 10 in a row, I know that's a big ask, but that's what they need to put them back into the at-large conversation, because then you'd be, what would that put them, 21-6, headed into a trip to St. Louis on February 20th, which would be an enormous opportunity with how good SLU looks this year, how well they're playing right now. Then you could start talking about at-large conversations again. But right now, the focus is this team trying to get things together and play their best basketball come A10 tournament time. And this was a huge step in the right direction, as Martelli said tonight, with a good road win at Rhode Island. Cochran led URI with 17 points. RJ Johnson scored 16. And I want to get in Phil's quote about Ward, because he hadn't played in the A10 for VCU yet, right? Like I said, hadn't played since that Ryder game on December 22nd. He's super talented, but I think it's easy to forget because he was good very early in the season with his initial impacts, right? And so it was easy to forget that dude hadn't played college basketball in 600 plus days after he sat out at LSU last year. And he made a big impact, and I think that uplifted everyone to see Tyrell get out there and play some good minutes. He hadn't scored since VCU's lost to Vanderbilt in the Bahamas. So here's Phil's quote about him. "He struggled in December. He struggled at practice. He was down in the dumps, and rightfully so. It's hard not to play. Since the turn of the new year, his energy has been so much different. His effort and energy, that's what starts it, because when your energy is right, the ball will find you where it's supposed to find you." And it found Tyrell tonight, and he made an impact, and VCU really needed that. So Rams to 12-6, 3-2 A10. They snapped the 2-game skid. Harvey, do you have anything to add? He's asleep. Maggie, do you have anything to add?
I think you got it.
Thanks, babe. I'm Zach Joachim. This is On the Horn. Thanks for tuning in, guys. The story is up. I'll have some more follows this week. VCU returns to action Monday against St. Joseph's at the Siegel Center. Phil said at the end of his interview, we need that place rocking on Monday afternoon. Let's get out there and be crazy. It's a St. Joseph's team that they will be favored against by a pretty wide margin. But down the stretch here, they obviously need the Siegel Center to be a factor in all their home games. So yeah. Much needed get-right win for VCU. Jadrian Tracey, Terrence Hill, Ahmad Nowell, your leading scorers with 19, 17, and 14 respectively. Michael Belle with a big contribution. Tyrell Ward came off the bench and provided a much-needed spark. And VCU got a much-needed win on the road. Thanks for tuning in, guys.